with my hair being a mess. It's 8 p.m. Ding, 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 ding. Welcome to I Love Cinema. I'm Mel, and this is your weekly movie review, movie news show. I'm in the UK, so this is usually around like UK, situated around UK releases. And today I managed to go and see, or this week I managed to go and see A Simple Favor, the new Paul Feig film. I can never remember how you pronounce his last name. Is it Feig or Feig? I hope it's Feig. I'm not sure. Paul, just let me know, right? I'm going to be talking about that. I've seen it earlier today, and I also went to see Mark Wahlberg's new film, the Peter Berg film, Mile 22. So more on that later. Let's dive straight into the news, because there's quite a lot there. I'm really trying to get through news really, really quickly. I know that I'm a bit of a talker. Red Sonja is a movie. Well, Red Sonja is based on a comic book, and that there was a movie, I think in the 80s, starring Brigitte Nielsen. They've been trying to do a revamp of that, doing a remake, and now apparently the Red Sonja movie, the remake, is back on track with Bryan Singer directing. Now that's obviously a bit of an interesting choice because there's certain allegations against Singer. The most harmless one's probably that he's not very professional on set. But he's apparently in talks to bring the Red Sonja movie to life. Millennium is the production company, and they've been trying to get this movie made for quite a while. I think it's like 10 years now or something. So, yeah, in 2008, there was supposed to be a Red Sonja movie happening with Robert Rodriguez producing and Rose McGowan starring in it. Sounds really interesting, those two attached to it. That didn't happen. Then in 2011, Megan Fox was supposed to star. That also didn't happen. And then Simon West, who directed Con Air, which is a movie I really like. Oh, hi, Billy. How are you doing? Welcome to I Love Cinema. I'm just talking about the Red Sonja movie that might be happening in the future. Bryan Singer's just been attached to directing it. The Megan Fox version didn't happen. Then Simon West apparently took over. He did Con Air. I'm a huge fan of Con Air. So he was rumored to be a potential director, and he had Amber Heard lined up potentially to star as Red Sonja. That also didn't happen. So all of that pretty much died. Now earlier this year, the guy who wrote X-Men First Class, Ashley Edward Miller, he is writing the script, and now we have Bryan Singer attached to direct. So it sounds like an interesting combination. And Red Sonja is something that I would really like. Hey there, though. How you doing? Hope you're well. Red Sonja is a character based on a comic book. It's kind of like a spin-off to Conan the Barbarian. And I think everyone knows Conan the Barbarian, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff. And that was turned into a movie, I think, in the 80s, starring Brigitte Nielsen. And hey there, mate. How you doing? Bit sand bubble. Love it. So Brigitte Nielsen played Red Sonja, and Red Sonja is, it's a Marvel property, which is why it's obviously quite a hot property, because Marvel is doing really well at the moment. And she is described as a sword master in peak human physical condition. She's a martial arts expert, as well as knowledge and experience of fighting the supernatural, right? So Singer's film is not the first film about Red Sonja. Like I said, there was a film in '85 that Richard Fleischer directed, and it starred Brigitte Nielsen, and also co-starred Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan the Barbarian. Was it as Conan? Actually, no, wasn't he a prince? I can't remember. But I loved this film when I was a kid. Back then, there was such a thing as like a video store, like Blockbuster back in the day. So you would go to the video store and rent like these VHS tapes, and we would rent this. Like I would make my parents rent this like once a month or something. I was addicted to this movie. I really, really loved this movie. It was crazy. Because I think it was one of the first iterations where I actually saw like a female character who was like a sword wielding, being able to take care of her own in this really horrendous world kind of character, sort of like Conan, but the female version. Hey David, welcome. I'm just talking about the Red Sonja movie apparently happening soon. Bryan Singer's attached to it, and I'm a bit excited because, like I said, I love the original in the 80s. I grew up on that when I was a little kid, and it really got me hooked on like strong female characters, and female characters that weren't just the princess that had to be saved. Hey David, good to see you too, mate. So I'm really excited for this one. I can't wait to hear more about that. Obviously, there are no rumors at the moment. They're just writing the script. There are no rumors as to who would be playing the lead character, and that would be a really interesting choice. Now, in other female-led films, the Charlie's Angels reboot, I'm not sure if I should call it a reboot, that Elizabeth Banks is producing. Is she also directing? I can't remember now. She's also supposedly playing Barsley. And now it turns out that they've added Patrick Stewart to the cast as Barsley. And I was like, what's going on with that? Just a few weeks ago, we learned that Elizabeth Banks is playing Barsley, which I thought was an interesting choice because Barsley, as far as I know, has never been played by a woman before. So I was like, okay, that's really interesting. And now Patrick Stewart is playing that character. So that seems to insinuate that either Elizabeth Banks has withdrawn her interest in playing the role, or what I find a lot more intriguing, there might be two Barsleys. Because they were saying it's like maybe there's going to be like, it's more like worldwide, and there are different iterations of Charlie's Angels agencies all over the world. And they're just showing this one particular one, but maybe they have an interaction with one of the other agencies, and there could be another Barsley. So maybe that's not the person's name, but the person's like position. So there could be one maybe in England, and Elizabeth Banks is the one in the States or something. So it'd be really interesting, and just to confuse the matter even worse. I mean, obviously we have Kristen Stewart attached to star in it, alongside Naomi Scott and Ella Balinska. And now we have another Stewart in there, just to confuse the hell out of it. But the Hollywood Reporter has confirmed that Patrick Stewart has been cast in his role. So it's going to be really interesting what's going on with that. So I'm going to keep my eyes peeled on that. And now, just as like a little side note, Disney streaming service, they're talking about this. They've been talking about this for months. And every now and then they release new tidbits where they're like, this is what's going to be on this. This is what's going to be on this. And it's quite intriguing because obviously Disney owns Star Wars, Disney owns Marvel, so it sounds like there's going to be a lot of really fantastic stuff potentially going to their streaming service. They're definitely trying to rival Netflix, and Netflix currently has pretty much the only Marvel TV shows. And now it sounds like this new streaming service are going to put Marvel TV shows on their own streaming service to feature Loki and Scarlet Witch. So according to Variety, there's going to be separate TV shows with Loki and with the Scarlet Witch. And we have Hiddleston and Olsen, who play it in the feature films. They're actually supposed to reprise their roles for the TV show. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of, budget going into this. It's going to be like the world of film, but on TV. So it sounds really, really intriguing. Apparently, each of these shows will run for 6 or 8 episodes. And Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige is expected to have quite an active role in the development of these two shows. And that's probably going to be even more. They're going to make a lot of shows apparently about smaller characters, which is going to be quite intriguing. So I'm definitely really interested in this now. Like, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get this Disney streaming service. I can't remember if they ever released a name for it. If we're going to be able to get this outside of the US, I do hope so. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people that are interested in Disney properties. It would be a bit of a bummer if you would have to be in the US in order to be able to access it. But yeah, stay tuned on that. In other movie news, we all know Wes Anderson. And I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Wes Anderson because it's always like his films are always really different and weird and artsy, and I usually just really don't get them. But then I saw the Grand Budapest Hotel, and I absolutely loved that. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I love this movie. And then, it's this year, Isle of Dogs came out, and I loved that one as well. So I was really, really surprised because I'm usually not a Wes Anderson fan. So now this news really has me intrigued. Wes Anderson's new movie has been confirmed as a musical set in 1950s France. and will apparently star a recent Oscar winner. Now, this is all according to a French site called Charente Libre. I don't speak French, and I probably mispronounced this like heck, so apologies. But I'm not, they didn't really reveal any specific plot details. Nothing's available yet, other than it's going to be a musical set in the 50s, and it's going to be set in France. We also don't know who the Academy Award-winning actor or actress is, so we don't even know the gender yet, but it's going to be someone who will be taking over the lead role. Interestingly enough, recently we had Frances McDormand win an Oscar. She's obviously worked with Anderson before in Moonrise Kingdom. She also did a voice in Isle of Dogs. Maybe it's her, would be great. I love Frances McDormand, and having her in another Anderson film could be really interesting. Bill Murray's probably going to show up. You know, the usual suspects. Anderson does what Tarantino does. He has like a troupe of actors that he uses and reuses, and I kind of like that about it. But it's going to be interesting to see who's going to take over the lead role. But yeah, it's like there's a lot of recent Oscar winners, but you never know, right? And now a bit of a bummer for me, personally. No female director for the Bond franchise. We've just had the new director confirmed for Bond 25, and unfortunately, it's not a lady. It's going to be a guy again. So long-time Bond producers Wilson and Broccoli announced on the official James Bond Twitter, "Hey Corey, how you doing?" that Cary Fukunaga will helm the 25th installment of the James Bond franchise. So apparently they also added that Bond 25 had to be pushed back to March 2019 because obviously there's quite the hiccups with Boyle leaving and stuff. So there's going to be a slight delay. So the release is actually going to be February 2020 now for the next Bond film. It's going to be interesting. I mean, Fukunaga, he's more of like a TV director. He did the first season of True Detective, which I thought was really, really good. He also did Beasts of No Nation and a few other films. He's got a bit of a weird, trippy visual style, so it's not really something that you would associate with the Bond franchise. I'm good, Corey. Thanks. I hope you too. I'm just going through some movie news before I start talking about the two films that I got to see today. So yeah, I'm a bit bummed that they didn't jump to the chance of maybe getting a female director to do Bond. Maybe it's a bit too radical still. Would have been really interesting to see. But it is Cary Fukunaga, and you know, no matter who directs it, I'm still probably gonna go and see it. I mean, I saw, what was the last one? Not Skyfall, something else, Spectre. And that was not very good. I'm not a fan. I was really disappointed, and I like Christoph Waltz, and I felt so bad what they've done with him. Hey, no worries, Corey. Always here to chat. I definitely have a lot more interaction with people now that I'm kind of like posting this on my personal Twitter and personal Periscope as opposed to ILoveCinema Periscope. So maybe I'll keep doing that. I hope you guys find it interesting. And now, last bit of news for today, which kind of ties into the next movie I'm going to be talking about, which is this little nugget. A Simple Favor, American written style, which was interesting. Paul Feig, he is going to be making a new movie. It's going to be a comedy. It's called Last Christmas. And it's going to be starring Emilia Clarke and Henry Golding. Now, Henry Golding is kind of like the it boy at the moment because he's in Crazy Rich Asians, which I think is a really good film. Not necessarily because of him. He's kind of like a supporting character. But he's really good. And he's also in A Simple Favor. And I think he's doing a really good job in that as well. So I can't wait to see him in that. Last Christmas is apparently a comedy that is going to be set in London. And interestingly enough, is going to be co-written by Emma Thompson. So it's going to be a romantic comedy. And obviously Emma Thompson has quite a bit of experience with romantic comedies. She is from London. So it will be interesting to see how she works with Feig. And yeah, it stars Henry Golding, Emilia Clarke, and it sounds amazing. Paul, Emma, I hope I can get a one-liner in the film. Please do call me. It would be fantastic. You probably need a pizza delivery person. I can definitely do that. No one delivers pizza and knocks on doors the way I do. All right, and now, without further ado, let me talk about A Simple Favor. I actually got through the news in 15 minutes. I think this is a new high score, and there was quite a lot of news to go through. So, Simple Favor is a movie based, well, the story is based on Darcy Bell's novel, also called A Simple Favor. And it follows a mummy vlogger, Stephanie Smothers, who's played by Anna Kendrick over here. And she kind of falls into really sudden, fast, mega bestie friendship relationship with beautiful, and I don't even know what I want to call her. She's just like so sweet talking and alpha and amazing and enticing and intoxicating Emily Nelson, played by Blake Lively. And Emily seems to have this really awesome, well put together life. She seems to be really successful. She lives in a great house. She's got a handsome husband. Everyone seems to be very well off. But then all of a sudden, if you've seen the trailer, you know that Emily goes missing. And then Stephanie goes, I gotta find my best friend. Something happened to her. And then Stephanie quickly learns she didn't know all that much about her new and seemingly only best friend. So it's quite an interesting film in regards to relationships and relationship dynamics. Hey Hussein, how you doing? Abu Yanis, welcome. I'm just talking about A Simple Favor, the new Paul Feig film starring Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. I've seen it earlier today, and I'd heard really good reviews. I heard really good stuff about it. I was quite interested. Hey mate. I was quite interested to see that, not just because it's a film that has two female leads in it. I also, in general, like Paul Feig's films. They're usually comedies, so there is quite a bit of a comical layer part of this that I didn't quite expect. Because when you look at the film, it reminded me quite a lot of Gone Girl, dark thriller type, you know, missing person kind of a thing, like really serious and suspenseful and thrilling, right? And then I watched this and I was really surprised how funny in places it was. And the film was also quite aware of what it is and how, almost like how extreme it is. It's almost like a Lifetime movie, but that's not doing it. That's not doing it favors. That's not really being nice to it. There are elements of it being very over-stylized and checklisty and ridiculous, but the characters, even though they're a bit stereotypical and maybe flat, but all the actors embody their characters so well that they're really interesting and captivating. And especially the two leads are absolutely fantastic. I just couldn't turn away, and I had so much fun with the film. And the film runs for about 2 hours, I think, and it's just, as soon as the film starts, it's just absolutely brilliant the way that it's done, because it starts really stylish and classy, you know, and that kind of like also goes into the first time you actually meet Blake Lively's character, Emily. Her entrance is very, very memorable and very powerful. And very classy and very stylish. So this is definitely, this is something I didn't really expect to happen, because I don't necessarily associate Paul Feig with very stylish and classy and seductive films. So I thought that was quite interesting that is something that happened. It is overall a thriller. It is kind of like Gone Girl, as in you have a missing person, and Anna Kendrick, Stephanie, is trying to figure out what happened. And she's literally playing like the detective in a film noir type of thriller, missing person, putting together puzzle pieces kind of a thing, like a Miss Marple thing. You know, you're with her all the way. How she's putting all the pieces together. Certain ones make more sense than others. So certain bits are a bit contrived, and it's because the script says so, or because you needed it to be there. But the funny thing is that even though it felt like a bit of a hiccup that was unpleasant, I immediately forgave it, because the film is just so much fun to watch. And the characters are so much fun to behold. And it's just absolutely fantastic. I love this film from start to finish. like I said, the when it starts with like this stylish, classy visual, like an homage to like 50s and 60s films. It's definitely it knows what it's what's the word? Not homage. What's the word? I can't think of the word. What it's trying to reboot, so to speak. You know, what it's based on, what it's homaging to, so to speak. Where it's stealing from. I really can't think of the right word. But it's very enticing. It's very seductive right from the get-go. I was intrigued and I was pleasantly surprised. As soon as like the credits started, like the credits as in like the intro credits, not the back end credits, I was like, wow, what is this? And then you have some French music playing. It just all sets a scene and an atmosphere and a style that is just very different to what you usually get to see. And I found that really interesting. I really enjoyed that. And it's kind of goes into, that is sort of what Blake Lively's character is embodying. That's kind of who she is, or who her character is. She's very old school Hollywood, classy type of character. You also see that in the way that she comes across, especially in the way that she dresses. She reminded me a lot of like Marlene Dietrich and Katharine Hepburn. Like, she wears a lot of suits. She has a very masculine wardrobe most of the time. Not all the time. She definitely also has femmy stuff. But the way that she comes across, and especially the way that her entrance is made when she meets Stephanie, Anna Kendrick's character, it is just such a slow reveal, and she even walks in slow-mo and stuff. It is just like, this is like a powerhouse of a character. This is a character that will have a huge impact on this person's life, on Stephanie's life. We see everything pretty much from Stephanie's perspective, so she is clearly the audience's avatar. And so when Blake Lively gets introduced, you can't help but, like, literally everyone goes, whoa. Everything freezes. All eyes are on her, even though they're not. But that's kind of like how it's shot and how it's blocked. And it's so powerful, so simple, but amazingly powerful and so effective that you are immediately intrigued, enamored, and totally captivated by Emily, and therefore obviously understand that so is Stephanie, who's just seeing exactly what we're seeing. And it just goes even further when then Emily starts speaking. And she is a very extreme character, but I thought she is someone she has a lot of, I don't want to call it machismo, but she has a lot of male characteristics. She has a lot of male energy. She's very unapologetic. She's very alpha. She calls a spade a spade. However she sees things, she's just saying that. She doesn't bullshit, And she swears a lot, even around her small children. She has a small son, and Stephanie has a small son. That's kind of like how they become best friends, because the sons want to have a play date. If you've seen the trailer, you've seen that particular scene. And then because of that, the two women kind of like end up together. Not in a romantic way, but they become best friends. Stephanie goes home to Emily's house. They have a drink together. And it's quite interesting to see the very extremes between the two characters. Like, Stephanie is like such a mumsy mum. She volunteers for everything at her son's school. We learn that something happened to her husband, which is why she's now a single mother. We also learn about Emily, and that her life is not as perfect as it looks. It just looks that great, but they have a lot of problems, or she's very unhappy, even though everyone thinks that she's the bomb. So it's quite interesting to see how everyone has all these layers and how everyone has all these secrets. And they immediately pretty much start like their best friend relationship, which is bizarre because they have never ever met. They've literally just met, and then all of a sudden they go and share some really dark, deep secrets. And it's interesting how Feek does that as well. It's kind of like a plot element. and a stylized element that he uses in the film several times, which I thought was fantastic. The characters are talking, and while they are sharing some kind of information with each other, you see, so they're sharing information that happened in the past. So they're sharing a memory. And while they're talking, you see that memory kind of like acted out on screen. And then sooner or later, there's a point where the memory keeps playing in front of you while the character is talking, but you realize that what you're seeing on screen and what you're hearing is not the same thing. So then it turns out what you're seeing, the reenactment, is actually what really happened. And the person is lying to the other person, saying that it wasn't so. Not really sharing their darkest secrets, right? So it's all about layers of personality, layers of secrets upon secrets upon secrets. And it's really intriguing and really interesting because of that. And Feig manages to make that really, really interesting because he pulls these layers off one by one. So he shows you quite a lot, but not at the same time. So there's like a gradual understanding of what's going on. And then he pulls all of that out from under you, and something entirely different happens. And the way he does that is really well done. But what really works in A Simple Favor, it lifts off these two actresses' performances because they're so fantastic and interesting. And you wouldn't necessarily say it's like, okay, Emily is like a bad seed, or she's like a victim, or whatever it is. And you wouldn't say that Anna Kendrick's character is like a naive, mumsy, prude or whatever. Everyone's got definitely several layers going on, and you find out more and more, and the characters change a lot throughout the film. And the main thing is that it is an homage to old classical Hollywood films with all these overly over the top and stylized stupid things that used to happen in these stories, in these murder mysteries or disappear mysteries or something. It's literally like a film from like the 50s or the 60s, but in nowadays time. And apparently I'm really boring because I've just lost all my viewers. But it's really well done in that regard. And the actors make all of that work. They really ground their characters. They ground everything that's going on. And then it goes all twisty and turny in the second half of the film. And there are things like most of the time I was like, it's quite predictable because you've seen these movies 50 million times before. We all grew up on these films. Like our parents probably watched these films on telly, right? So you know the structure, you know exactly what's going to go, what's going to happen and stuff. And then something else in addition to that will happen. You're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And then a couple of other bits and bobs, and some of them are a bit more contrived than others. But overall, I thought it worked really well. At the end, there are, as is always the case, there's some history and reveals stuff you didn't know about certain characters that is like blowing your mind and blowing other people's minds. And it's like, wow, a whole different perspective on things. And I can't believe that you did that. And then everyone's trying to kind of like do a 180 here and do a 180 here. But if I know that you're doing a 180 and I'm doing a 180, well, it's like, I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you know that you're lying. That kind of a thing. And it goes like that. And it's like, I'm so confused. But it's a lot of fun. And it's because the narrative style of the entire film, I like the structure that he chose. Because it's very 21st century. We have Stephanie is a mummy blogger. So she's a mother of like, what, a 6-year-old or something? And she has a weekly vlog that she does where she goes, this is the best, I don't know, facial cream that you can use. Or this is what you should do if your child has a rash. Or here's the recipe of the best brownies I've ever made. Those kinds of things. From one mother to other mothers. Kind of like sharing little secrets and stuff. Because she's very hands-on, and she's very handy when it comes to the household, to cooking and cleaning, raising her child, taking care of her child. Her child is definitely the most prized thing, in the most prized person, the only important thing in her life. And the same is true for Emily as well. And then obviously, if you've seen the trailer, something happens to Emily and Emily disappears, and then Stephanie goes like, what's going on? And then it turns into like this Miss Marple, Agatha Christie thing. But it's really interesting the way that she comes across things, that she is not perfect or harmless herself. She has her deep, dark secrets and desires as well, which obviously plays into things. So overall, I really, really loved this film. Let's see, what else did I write down? Everyone has their secrets. It's enticing and seductive. Yeah, I was telling you, we see what really happens, but the character tells it differently, which I thought was quite interesting. It reminded me of Gone Girl, as I mentioned, but it's not dark like Gone Girl. It's more, they've seen Gone Girl and they wanted to make Gone Girl, but more the comedy version. Not that the film is funny. There's like a lot of really tragic and drama shit happening in there. But this film knows what it is, and it's totally running with that, and it's enjoying itself. And there's some really comical stuff, not just, like, that's also how the script is written. And then obviously Anna Kendrick is really good with comedy. Her comedic timing is brilliant. And some of the dialogue that happens in there, and just some of the looks and the deliveries and everything, it just works so well. There were definitely several laugh out loud moments in this film that I did not expect whatsoever, because I thought it was a missing person mystery thriller thing, really dark, and maybe a murder mystery or something, because of course, as was part of the trailer, it turns out the husband, who is usually the prime suspect in these kinds of cases, has taken out an additional life insurance policy on the wife for $4 million. And then it turns out they had money problems. And then, of course, he is prime suspect number one, right? So there it is. I loved Anna Kendrick in the role. She's definitely the lead. Blake Lively, even though I would say she's the co-lead, it's both leads together. But Blake Lively definitely has the smaller role. This is definitely an Anna Kendrick vehicle. But it is also kind of like a noir thriller, but with comedic elements in there, with a comedic layer, and a very colorful, lively, which is weird, sorry, that was my housemaid, a very colorful, lively visual style that is absolutely fantastic. And it's so classy, like, just like I said, it's like when the film starts and it sets the French music and the visual style of like the starting credits, it's just so beautiful and interesting and, yeah, classy and old school, but everyone's got smartphones and stuff, so it's old school but modern, which is quite interesting. And I think it's that dichotomy that really works for the film as well. So the twists and turns were very comical in places. It's the right mix of fun. Like, the entire film is just fun from start to finish. Like, for you as the audience, even if there's something very dramatic happening, it's just a lot of fun. But it's also funny, suspenseful, and intriguing. And the performances by these two ladies, absolutely top-notch. Really, really loved it. So I talked about the old Hollywood aesthetics, like, like Emily's look. Like, so high-class, sophistication. Just as soon as she basically enters Stephanie's life, I think she steps out of a classy black Porsche or something. She's wearing like a pinstripe black suit and a hat. And she's got a black umbrella, which basically hides her entire upper half, because it's raining. And then the umbrella kind of like dips. So there's this slow reveal of her face and the hat and everything. And it looks absolutely brilliant. It's just, and the whole thing is done in slow motion. So all of that is slowly revealed while you have Stephanie just pretty much going, wow, who is that? It is quite an entrance. It is a very, very memorable entrance, and it reminded me of, Marlene Dietrich. I think more so than Katharine Hepburn, because, but those two definitely. It's like this old school Hollywood. Really, really fantastic. It doesn't, and the film doesn't hide its homages. It even mentions the film Diabolique in there later on, which obviously gives you a bit of a reference as to where the film is going, if you've ever seen Diabolique, and I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to spoil that for you. This is going to be spoiler free. But it's really fantastic in that regard, and I think there's an homage to like several of these like old school films, and it works really well. So you can kind of see, it's like I'm pointing, like the director is pointing the finger in the right direction if you are aware of these things, and that's why it works really well. That there are like a bunch of different layers that make it very interesting. As a side note, other than I really, really love this, notable mentions go to the other moms. Because obviously this entire thing starts in like a school environment, because that's where the two boys obviously hang out with each other. That's where the mothers meet. So for that, the other moms include a gay man, which I thought was fantastic. And he was the other moms in general, they're kind of like the Greek chorus, so to speak. They sometimes say things that you as the audience might be thinking, and they are definitely part of the comic relief, especially the guy who plays the gay man. I've seen him in a few of TV shows. I can't remember his name now. I really should have looked this up, but he is the most notable of these ones, and he's got some really good scenes. He's got some really good lines as well, and he's a very, very memorable character, and he actually turns into someone really important later on. There is definitely one scene later on where it's like, wow, without you, this would have gone entirely different. So that was quite nice that there was a bit of a payoff to these really just side characters. But everyone's really good in this film, including the side characters. That also includes like someone who plays an insurance agent, and of course all the police officers that are involved with the missing person case. So all across, the film is really well done. And also the stuff that you find out about Emily's backstory and Stephanie's backstory, all of that stuff has been done really, really well. And how it's been revealed, like gradually, like a little bit tidbit here and a little tidbit there. I think the structure of the film works really well. I love the whole thing with, the mom plot. So I thought that was really good. Not mom plot, the mom vlog, sorry. That Anna Kendrick is always streaming, like doing her weekly thing, and she kind of talks about her best friend Emily, and then all of a sudden Emily goes missing, and she starts talking about that as well, and then she kind of uses that also to like get the message out there, but also to get some feedback from other people, get input, and some people help her there, and it's quite interesting to see the progression in that, and that kind of gives it like the structure. That's how we start the film, and I'm not sure that's sort of also how we end the film. And it's kind of like an interesting bookend, like a narrative structure to the film that I didn't think it was going to have, and it's so obvious. And after I've seen the entire film, it's like, you should have picked up on this so much sooner, and I just didn't, because I was just so enthralled by everything that was going on. I loved the performances, and obviously I was mega smitten with Blake Lively, because oh my god, not just that she's gorgeous no matter what, but that's not even it. It's just the character she's playing in this is just so enticing and captivating, that irresistible, seriously irresistible, because she's just so confident and so alpha and so weird and quirky and a bit extreme in the way that she sees things. But you can't help but like that she is so unapologetically who she is. And that is something I find very attractive and really irresistible. So it's not just that she's absolutely drop dead gorgeous, but her character's personality, I was like, wow. Everything's just like, it's like a black hole that is drawing me to it. So I really loved it. I wish that Blake Lively's character had a bit more screen time, because she is really, really fantastic. But I love Anna Kendrick and the way that she makes everything work. This film, definitely highly recommended. This is going to be my movie of the week. I got to go and see this again. This is so much fun. I wonder how much more fun it is once you know where it's actually going, because obviously this is a mystery thriller. So once you know what the mystery is, once you know all the twists and turns, I'm not sure how well it holds up. But I love the performances in it. And I kind of want to see how it works the second time you watch it. Once there are no more surprises, does it still work? So I'm definitely going to check it out again. But this definitely highly recommended. A Simple Favor. And the funny thing is that obviously A Simple Favor VOR, because it's an American film. I live here in London and here in the UK. Why is it pumping? Why is the thing pumping? I don't know. Here in the UK, you write favor with a VOUR. And I was like, oh, that's going to be interesting. And as soon as the title came up, and I was mentioning how awesome the titles look, right? And I was like, they changed the title for the UK. Because it's written VOUR. So I assume, because obviously the title sequence is quite stylish. It's not just a white title. So the production company, the editing suite, will have to put that out probably in different languages. Like in German it will say something entirely different, and in Japanese it will say something entirely different. So I never really thought about that, but yeah, they wrote it with a U. So interesting. Highly recommend. Absolutely highly recommend A Simple Favor. So much fun. Really, really good. It is very, you could say it is very by the book, and I think the script's quite aware of that. Which is why it does the whole thing by the book, and then it adds a few layers on top, and that trickles down and makes the entire mixture a lot more interesting. So while you do think once you start watching it, it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen. And certain bits, you're going to be right, but with other bits, probably not. At least that was the point for me. Maybe if you know everything, then it might not be as interesting, but I think the performances are still going to be worthwhile to go and see this. And with that, I want to go and talk about Mile 22. Okay, so that was like roughly 17 minutes talking about A Simple Favor, which is good. That was faster than I usually am. So Mile 22 is an action movie, action thriller, starring Mark Wahlberg and Lauren Cohen and John Malkovich. I think those are the only ones that... Oh, and Ronda Rousey. And synopsis-wise, the film follows an elite CIA task force composed of paramilitary officers from Ground Branch of Special Activities Division. So basically a bunch of like mega awesome soldiers who are also sort of like semi-spies. That has to escort a high-priority asset 22 miles, title, to an extraction point while being hunted by foreign government officials. Or, as IMDb says, an elite American intelligence officer aided by a top-secret tactical command unit tries to smuggle a mysterious police officer with sensitive information out of the country. There you go. What Mile 22 is the plot does not matter one bit. It's an action thriller. It's all about the action. A lot of the stuff that happens there doesn't necessarily make sense. It doesn't even have to make sense, because all you want to see is the action, and pretty much all you get to see is action. And the action in this, I think, is really, really cool. Now, one of the things, first off, for Mile 22, does it say on here? I don't think so. When the ratings card came up, I was surprised it had an 18 rating. It doesn't just have a 16, sorry, they don't do 16 here, a 15 rating or anything. It had an 18 rating. And I can't remember the last time I watched an 18 rated film in the cinema. So that is definitely something that doesn't happen very often. Most of the time, studios and especially distributors, they prefer to cut out anything that would give it an 18 rating, because it limits your audience. Because teenagers like going to the cinema, teenagers fork out a lot of money. That's the demographic you want to get. And that is obviously the demographic you cannot get when you have an 18 rating. So I was quite surprised by that. But trust me, once you've seen the film, it definitely needs an 18 rating, because this film is really violent, really gory and gruesome. And I'm not someone who's very squeamish, but there were things happening in there where I literally went like, oh, whew. And then I get, oh, wow. So it's definitely out there, but I think it's more to do with it being very realistic. And I don't know how realistic it is with like gunshot wounds and stuff. It's like, I'm not a consultant for that. I'm not a consultant for violent films. But to me, a lot of this stuff felt very realistic, because most of the time you have characters literally fighting for their life, fighting for survival. And when you're trying to survive, you do horrendously gross things. It's not like you get into the boxing ring and there are rules. In survival, there are no rules. You use whatever you can to survive, which means the other person who's trying to attack you and hurt you and maybe dead you, you have to kill them as soon as possible. And people do this in very efficient manners, in ways that I'd never really seen in other films before. And I'm just touching my throat because I'm thinking of a scene where someone basically gets their throat slit by a car window. So the window of the car had been blown out because there's been an altercation. So there was no glass in the window anymore, and the person's head was through the now glassless window. But obviously you have shards of glass at the bottom, because the window doesn't just break perfectly smooth, right? So there are cracks of glass at the bottom. And so this person's head gets donked down, and the throat is on the shards of glass. And the other person takes the head and moves it left and right and left and right. And then obviously all of this is cut open. So that is just one of the scenes where I was like, whoa. I was like, wow, I've never seen that before, but that's actually a really good idea and highly efficient, but whoa. So that type of violence, that type of action. Now, to me, I thought it was very realistic. Like, if I was at a disadvantage or whatever, if I was trying to keep someone from killing me and I had that chance, I wouldn't have thought of this, but now maybe I do. You never know. If I'm ever in a situation like that, I will just go. But yeah, it was really weird. And there are several of these instances where stuff like this happens. So it is very gory, it's very violent, it's very bloody. And it shows things that you would otherwise not see. So it definitely deserves the 18 rating. But I think that also makes it a lot more interesting. I basically wasn't really interested in watching this film because I'd heard a lot of really bad stuff about it. It doesn't review very well. Not necessarily a fan of Mark Wahlberg or John Malkovich, but I like Lauren Cohen. She's Maggie in The Walking Dead, and she was in The Boy. I think it was called The Boy. It was a horror movie last year, I think it was, maybe the year before, and she was really good in that. And I kind of want to support that, but obviously I'm also supporting other people in this. And I thought she was really good. And she did her action bits really good, and I really believed that she was like a special forces kind of a person. She was really tough, and she looked like she knew what she was doing. And overall, I really liked the film. I have to admit that maybe because my expectations were really shit, but overall I really enjoyed the film, probably because my expectations were in the basement. I don't expect much from an action film other than action, right? And that's what you get in this. There is a lot of crazy action. The guy, I think that the Asian guy that they're trying to smuggle out of the country, I think he's from the raid or something. So he's like a martial artist. And they just let him do his martial artist stuff. And he's just amazing. And it's brutal. And, oh, the best reference is probably the bathroom fight in the new Mission Impossible. You know, that's like really realistic. And Tom Cruise and Superman get their asses handed to them by the little small Asian dude. And it's really realistic and gruesome and bam and brutal. It's awesome. It's so awesome. And that's kind of what Mile 22 is as well. So we get to see, can't believe I didn't look up this guy's name. I'm so sorry. He's amazing. It's, oh, here, ILoveCinema. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, sorry. But that guy. Okay, so that's Lauren Cohen, that's Mark Wahlberg, and that's ILoveCinema. So he's really good. He's a great martial artist. He has some amazing fight sequences. There's one where basically people are trying to get in into the US embassy or something, because he fled to the US embassy. So other people are trying to get in to kill him, to murder him, so he can't give the secrets to the US. And then, so they've been infiltrated. And he has to survive against an onslaught of people while being handcuffed to something. And he basically is just wearing shorts because he's just been in a doctor's examining room or whatever. And no one's there to save him. It's literally just him against everybody else. And it's brutal and gutsy and gory and just amazing and just really, really powerful and brutal. And I loved it. It's kind of like, it's like a Jackie Chan fight sequence. You use everything that is at your disposal around you, whether it's a weapon or not. But while Jackie Chan makes it kind of like sort of safe and, you know, makes it look like, oh, you just got your head gonged in the fridge door or something. Here, it's bloody and gory and bad in a good way. And you get that throughout the entire film. There are firefights and there are explosions and stuff like that. And from an action point of view, I thought it was a really good film. There's so much action in there and it's insane. And the editing of it is good. The staging of it is good. I thought it was really believable. I really believed that all of that shit was happening that I was seeing. So I thought from that standpoint, it's actually a really good movie. As long as you don't look for a lot of plot or anything, and if you expect there to be a lot of intrigue or proper espionage, there's, like I said, I don't spoil anything, right? You love my outfit. What, my shirt? Well, that one. I'm not undressing just because you say you love my outfit. But thank you, Corey. But yeah, there's certain layers happening there. While the entire thing is, while they're trying to get this guy to safety, there is kind of like a third party involved. And the entire time you're like, what's up with the third party? They're just observing everything. This makes no sense. So obviously you know that there's going to be a payoff to that later. And that resolution at the very end, it's not even a third act resolution because it's literally the last 5 minutes of the film. Something is being explained to the viewer and you're like, come on, that feels so tacked on. It feels like you cut shitloads of it out. So I thought the final resolution, how everything fits together, it felt tacked on, but these people have been in the film the entire time, so it's not really tacked on. It's more like you've left out a lot of other stuff potentially. I'm not sure. It wasn't satisfactory at all. It felt like it came out of left field, like this should have maybe been the main focus of the entire story, instead of not just a B but a C plot. It felt very undernurtured, you know, undervalued. It was like, what, and that is it? And that's what is basically reshaping the entire film? Why are you doing that? It's like you're basically confusing the viewer as you're telling them to now leave the cinema because the credits just started rolling. And I was like, that's not going to leave people in a good way. That's not how you want to leave people, right? So I was really, really surprised by that. And one of the other things is like, this film kind of starts like these films usually start, like Skyscraper starts. You start the film with an operation that most of this team is on. And then something doesn't go very well. And then it's 16 months later and we're at the heart of the film, the actual part of the story. And obviously you know that there's going to be a payoff of that because somehow A led to B, so there's going to be C. But B seems to be totally unrelated to A, so there's got to be some kind of explanation. And that explanation happens, like I said, in the last 5 minutes. And it left me very wanting and it left me very unsatisfied and it left me actually quite pissed off, to be quite honest. It's kind of like it ruined the film. It was trying to be clever, but it didn't succeed. And yeah, I'm not a fan of the last 5 minutes. And one other thing is like throughout the film's not very long actually. It's only like 90 minutes, 96 minutes. funny enough, it feels a lot longer because there's a lot of action in it. It's really, like, I think it's a really good action film. Just don't worry about plot or narrative or characters or anything. But that's where the film is kind of weird, because there are bits in the film where Mark Wahlberg's character, he kind of, we get his backstory that what his mum and two brothers died in a car crash, and then he was an orphan, and he's somehow mentally gifted or something. And some of the other characters, they say that he has dissociative disorder, or he's bipolar, or he's just an asshole, as someone else puts it. Because that's the other thing. He's somehow gifted, but not that he's autistic or something, but he definitely has a bit of a mental problem, mental disorder. And yet he is a high-profile operative, which is kind of funny. But he is basically playing an absolute asshole in this film. He is one of the most unlikable characters. Ever since Tag and Jeremy Renner, this is the most unlikable character I think I've seen all year. And he's the protagonist. And then it turns out that he was married 3 times, and you're like, how does that happen? You're an absolute dick. Who would marry you? Like, it doesn't matter how bulging your abs are. No one would fucking marry you. You're a fucking asshole. All this shit is in the film, and it doesn't add anything to his character. Like, he could just be an asshole, right? Why does he have to have a mental thing? Or even if he has a mental thing, which apparently means that he is bipolar, which means that he is an asshole, which is like, what kind of fucking message is that? But all this explanation and his backstory is absolutely unnecessary in the film and just detracts. And the same thing is kind of true for Lauren Cohen's character. She has a thing with like an ex-husband and a child situation, and they're going through a really ugly divorce. And because she's overseas, she can't really, like, she's not there in person, and she feels she's neglecting her child, but she's obviously at work, and the husband's being an asshole about it. But her bit at least leads to a bit of comic relief, because they have this weird little device, like a satellite phone with it's like a smartphone, but a satellite phone version. And there's an app on there called Family Wizard or something, I can't remember. It's supposed to help you negotiate the divorce happenings without aggravating each other. So you're not allowed to swear at each other. So she's typing something, and then she types like, just take the fucking thing. And she's like, swearing is not allowed. Please delete the word fucking or something, right? It's hilarious. Like, it's a tiny bit. It's not like laugh out loud funny, but I definitely chuckled when that happened. But that I sort of got, because it was sort of the only bit of comical relief that you had throughout the film, because I didn't find Mark Wahlberg's character very funny, because he actually is a pedantic, egotistic asshole and very unlikable. And maybe there was one scene where he said something that I thought was hilarious, and that was it. But otherwise, he was just being a twat. And that is a weird choice, I think. If you make your protagonist unlikable, why would you choose to do that? Usually you want to make even a villain likable, because if they're likable, that means they're interesting. But he was so uninteresting and unlikable that I just wanted him to get shot the entire time. I was like, I wouldn't cry if he got killed, because certain people get killed. So I thought it was a really weird choice to give her this backstory with the husband and stuff. It was not needed. Did we have to feminize her up, saying that she used to be married, or she's still married, she has a child, but because she's a soldier? Ronda Rousey's character didn't need that. Is it because she's kind of the female lead that we needed to womanize her up? I don't know. It was a really weird choice. But especially the one with Mark Wahlberg's character. Oh, you haven't seen it yet? If you want action, Corey, for action, I think Mile 22 is really good, but it's very, very gory. I don't know if you've seen me talking about how someone's throat got slit by, with a broken car window. I'm not squeamish, but there's some really heavy shit happening in this. Narrative-wise, Mile 22, not very good. The plot is absolutely stupid, but it is a stupid action thriller, and the action is good. And I wouldn't say it's thrilling, but the action is good. There's a lot of martial arts going on. There's a lot of gunfights. There's car chases, but overall it's really by the numbers, you know exactly where it's going, and then at the end it's trying to kind of like wow you with some plot stuff, and you're like, yeah, I'm not wowed because that's bullshit. That's kind of what Mile 22 is. I love the whole look of realistic survival fight action. Really love that. But the final resolution kind of like undoes the film and takes the fun out of it. It's like, why did you just do that? It's just so bullshit. So overall, I thought Mile 22 was good. You're a fan of action films. I think you'd like it. Let me know once you've seen it, what you think of the final resolution, because I think the action pieces in Mile 22 are really good. So Mile 22 is a bit hit and miss. It depends on what you're after. If you're after an action film, you can easily go and see this. It's very gory and bloody and gutsy and brutal. As long as you know that, it's going to be fine. If you want a fun action film, don't watch this. This is not fun. It's just literally brutal action where you go like, holy fucking shit. It looks very realistic. But if you want to see a really entertaining film, if you want to see two female leads, if you want to see a Paul Feig film, if you want to see a mystery film, a mystery thriller, that's fun with great characters and great performances, a bit like classy Hollywood, stylish Hollywood, old school stuff. Definitely check out Simple Favor. It's definitely my movie of the week. I'm going to put it in my top 10 list. I actually haven't checked my top 10 list in a while. I think there's more than 10 movies in there now. But this is one of the best films I've seen all year. I really love it. I can't wait to go and see it again. And now that we've talked about this and it is 9, I'm just quickly going to run overview-wise. New on DVD and Blu-ray next week on the 24th. Star Wars, Solo, A Star Wars Story is coming out. The Breadwinner is coming out, which I unfortunately missed in the cinema. I think it came out in general release in the US last year because it was nominated for an Oscar. We only got it a few months ago. I missed it, so I'm going to go and check it out there. And then Gotti, the one with John Travolta. We haven't even had a theatrical release for this here. It's now out. It's coming out next week on Blu-ray and DVD. And what I really want to show you is a nice little, cute little, I don't want to say cute little, but it's a horror movie. It's an independent horror film. It's called Escape from Cannibal Farm. And I have to admit, one of my friends stars in it, and she's fantastic. And I've seen it at a screening, I think last year it was. It's a really good horror movie, a very cool indie film that is taking place here in the UK. It's done on absolute minimum budget, but it's just a lot of fun. It's coming out on DVD. I'm not sure if it's out on Blu-ray, but it definitely comes out on DVD next week. You can get it off Amazon. It's called Escape from Cannibal Farm. Cannibal as in, I eat people. It's really good. If you like horror movies, I think you'd enjoy it. So definitely check it out. Now, new on Netflix, not much on there other than American Honey, which is a film that came out in 2016, which I, until today, still haven't seen. Stars Shia LaBeouf, and I can't remember the lady's name. It got a lot of buzz around it when it came out in 2016, so maybe go and check it out. I'm not sure if it's worth it because I haven't personally seen it yet. And then, obviously, new in cinemas as of tomorrow or today. As of today, Simple Favor came out today. Definitely check that out. Such a good movie. We still have Crazy Rich Asians in the cinema, which obviously Henry Golding is in both films, Simple Favor and Crazy Rich Asians. So he's got a double bill going on. Tomorrow we have House with a Clock in the Walls coming out, which is the new Jack Black and Cate Blanchett film. It's like a kiddie movie. I have to admit I'm not interested. But because Cate Blanchett's in it, I'm going to go and watch it. But it's not very high on my list, I have to admit. And then we have a movie called The Little Stranger is coming out. It's based on a Sarah Waters novel. It stars Ruth Wilson and Domhnall Gleeson. So I got to go and watch that as well. I think those are probably the two movies I'm going to be watching next week. I have to admit, just a quick side note, I just printed out the calendar for the London Film Festival, which starts on, October 10th, I think it is. I'm really excited for that because I managed to get a press pass. So the press screenings start on Monday. Unfortunately, I can't go on Monday because I work on Monday, as in normal, boring, stupid work. But Tuesday onwards, I'm probably going to be hanging out in central London, just watching screening after screening after screening if I can. So I will probably be talking a lot about that next week. I'm not entirely sure if I'll be able to to go live on Thursday next week. It might have to be Friday, because there's a screening of A Star is Born with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga happening on Thursday night, and I'm really excited for this film, so I don't want to miss it. I've also just seen that there's a press screening of this film happening on Tuesday, so I might be able to watch it then. So stay tuned. Just follow me on Twitter, Melanie_Radloff, or go to ILoveCinema vlog or hashtag ILoveCinema. I mean, if you're watching this, you probably watched it on Twitter or Periscope, so you probably already know my handle on Twitter. Stay tuned, like follow me on Twitter, because I'm probably going to be sharing a lot of thoughts on the London Film Festival, the thoughts I'm allowed to share before films are properly released. But yeah, definitely stay tuned to that. I'm probably going to go live on Periscope every now and then with that. So just follow me on Twitter, Melanie_Radloff, RADLOFF for Foxtrot. Foxtrot. Yep, I hope you have fun at the cinema. Do me a favor and go check out this film, because it is just so fucking fantastic. Trust me on that. I think you're gonna love it. But whatever you go and watch, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on here, hit me up wherever, maybe in person even. Let me know what you're watching, what you like, what you loved at the cinema, what you didn't like at the cinema. Let's just talk movies. Let me know what you think. Pop something in the comments. RT it is if you see it on Twitter. I hope you have fun at the cinema. Go watch A Simple Favor. Watch Crazy Rich Asians. Whatever it is you're watching, let me know what you think. Let's keep sharing that. Let's go to the cinema. Let's make sure you vote with your money. You know, every time you buy a ticket, you vote with your money. So let's do something for representation. We have two really great Asian film. Well, not Asian. They're Hollywood films, but having lead characters are Asian characters in Searching, which is a great film, and Crazy Rich Asians. So make sure you go and check out those films. It's really important you vote with your money, okay? So put your money where your mouth is. And I will see you next week, potentially Thursday, maybe Friday, maybe before that. It's going to be so busy. I think the next like 4, 5, 6 weeks is going to be insane, okay? So stay tuned. I'm probably going to be talking about movies quite a lot. So yeah, I hope to see you in the cinema. And if I don't, I hope you have fun in the cinema.